Who doesn't love a good bedtime story? The thing is, if any of these monsters we are about to tell you about are in the story, I guarantee they would occupy your nightmares. Today we're going to be looking at 10 mythical sea creatures. Number 1 is the granddaddy of them all, so make sure you stick till the end. With all that said and done, let's begin, shall we? Number 10. The Cyrene Crowing. Let's start this list off with a sea monster that, if you aren't Scottish, you've probably never heard of before. In Scotland, this monstrous sea creature is known as the Cirein Croin, and it reportedly loves to terrify its victims before gobbling them up in a single bite. It has been described as a water dragon or sea serpent type of creature, of a humongous size and an even bigger appetite. Local legends state that this animal is so voracious that it can consume up to 7 whales in one sitting. Another aspect that makes this legendary creature even more terrifying is its ability to shapeshift. Curiously, it uses its shapeshifting ability to transform itself into a smaller fish, usually silver in color, small enough to fit into the palm of your hand. It's not really known why such a large, ferocious monster would go out of its way to camouflage itself as something infinitely more valuable, but I personally think that it's the creature's hunting strategy. If, in its tiny form, is caught by an unsuspecting fisherman, it would suddenly transform back into its original terrifying state and swallow the fisherman whole. Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you will get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it really works. Number 9. The Janggu. To put it simply, the janggu is the African version of the mermaid. They are described as nearly identical to the more popular merfolk with a few slight differences. They are said to have dark skin, have long woolly hair, and wide-gapped toothed smiles. They are also said to be very fond of wearing jewelry. That is, if they don't hamper their swimming, obviously. They are further differentiated from mermaids by how they are perceived by locals. They live in rivers and the sea and are said to bring good fortune to those who worship them. They are also reported to be able to cure disease and act as intermediaries between worshippers and the world of spirits. For this reason, a Janggu cult has long enjoyed popularity among the Douala peoples. Among the Bakweri, this cult is also an important part of a young girl's rite of passage into adulthood. Number 8. The Kappa. From Africa, we now fly over to Japan, where exists a sea creature who was formerly feared but is now celebrated in pop culture. The kappa is a water imp that was known to inhabit bodies of water in Japan. This terrible little creature was known to have a humanoid body with superhuman strength and terrifying speed. They were known to wait by the edges of water and sometimes in bathroom toilets for victims to come by. At this time, they would pull their victims into the water and drown them in order to steal their shiri, a person's life force. Women were sometimes able to survive a kappa attack, but they would often be sexually assaulted by the beast because the kappa gained sexual pleasure from being able to touch the shiri. But in modern times, that fear has greatly dissipated, and the fearsome kappa has been turned into a local mascot. The Kappa Matsuri is a Japanese festival in honor of the mythical kappa. It is held during summer, usually involving parades of people dressing up like the kappa, and is celebrated in various parts of Japan that include Tokyo, Ushiku, Komaki, and Misawa. Number 7. The Leviathan. One of the most famous sea monsters was brought to the forefront by Christianity. This monster is the Leviathan, one of the first creatures to be created by God himself. Leviathan started out as a gentle creature that was content to roam the seas with its partner. Soon, however, it was corrupted and became a creature that loved to cause chaos and destruction. In order to save the world, God was forced to destroy the female Leviathan so that they could not reproduce. The male Leviathan was left for the time to roam the oceans and cause mayhem. He was known to have many dragon-like abilities and be impossible to kill. This combination made him the most feared monster in history. He was known to delight in causing the water around him to boil at intense temperatures, causing the skin of sailors to melt slowly and painfully. It was thought that to see Leviathan was to be fated for death, as there are no reports of Leviathan being spotted by someone who survived to tell the tale. Number 6. Scylla. Those of you who have a passing knowledge of Greek mythology would be familiar with this sea creature. Scylla was once a beautiful Nalad who was chased after by many suitors. One day, Poseidon caught sight of her and decided to claim her for his own. That seems to be a recurring theme for most Greek gods. Unfortunately, this caused Amphitrite to become very jealous. Amphitrite decided to poison the water of the spring where Scylla loved to bathe, turning her into a terrible monster. There are several different renditions of what Scylla was turned into. Some of these renditions say she remained a beautiful maiden from the waist up, but had a terrible serpent's tail and 6 dogs' heads around her waist that hungrily sought out men to devour as part of her revenge. Other accounts say she was made to be a fearsome monster above the waist as well. She is depicted as having 4 eyes and 6 additional necks, each with a terrible dog's head that had 3 rows of sharp teeth in their mouths. She is also sometimes said to have 12 tentacle legs and a cat's tail. There were about as many renditions as Zeus had lovers, so there's numerous of them. She was truly terrifying to crews attempting to pass through the Strait of Messina. She lived directly across from a whirlpool monster named Charybdis, and sailors would have to choose which monster they wanted to take their chances with. Though many chose to pass on her side of the strait, they had to sacrifice 6 men to her hungry mouths to do so. Number 5. Charybdis. Of course, if we're going to talk about Scylla, we shouldn't leave her partner in crime out of the conversation. You see, they're like 2 peas in a pod, and one can't be discussed without the other. I'm talking about the Great Whirlpool herself, Charybdis. It is said that Charybdis lived under a small rock on one side of the Messina Channel. She is thought to have been the daughter of Poseidon and Gaia, who was turned into a terrible monster by Zeus. Part of his curse was to make her thirst for the sea so much that she had to swallow large quantities of water 3 times each day. This process indirectly caused whirlpools that is estimated to have been nearly 75 feet across. She was chained underneath a rock on the strait that made it impossible to move from her location. There are also versions of this story that simply claim that Charybdis was the name of the whirlpool in the straits. This version is supported by the fact that there is a whirlpool in the same location. This whirlpool, however, can only affect small ships in extreme weather conditions, not the mighty Greek ships of that day and age. Number 4. Jormungand. Jormungand, also known as the Midgard serpent, is a snake or dragon who lives in the ocean that surrounds Midgard, the visible world. So enormous is he that his body forms a circle around the entirety of Midgard. He is one of the 3 children of Loki and the giantess Angerbada, along with Hel and Fenrir. He is often depicted as one of Thor's mortal enemies, and a couple of battles between them are recounted in the Eddas. In one, Thor fishes for Jormungand and fails to pull him up, and that's only because the giant Hymir, terrified that this will bring about Ragnarok, severs the line, sending the snake back down to the depths. When Ragnarok does arrive, however, Thor and the Midgard serpent are fated to slay each other. Jormungand likely already featured in the religion of the original Germanic tribes, as evidenced by his existence in the later pre-Christian religions of different branches of the Germanic peoples. In fact, continental Germans attributed earthquakes to his movements well into the Middle Ages. I look forward to reading all the comments saying how much I butchered these names. Number 3. The Vodianova. Vodianova is a water-dwelling spirit that lives in rivers, ponds, and streams. According to the East Slavic tradition, Vodianova is described as a male creature with a flat, flabby body, wide face covered with greenish hair, and a long green beard that stretches down to his feet. For a long time, this creature has been blamed for drowning villagers and causing floods. He was also blamed for attracting and kidnapping young girls by disguising as a beautiful flower on the river's shore. Once he captured them, he took them to a kingdom for his kind, where he forced them to marry and serve him. The Slavic tradition held that the creature originated from the spirit of unbaptized man, or a man who committed suicide. Therefore, he is known to be afraid of saint waters. To get rid of him, people blessed the rivers or ponds where he appeared, forcing him to leave. Fishermen, on the other hand, respected him and offered him tobacco as a gift in exchange for good fish. Now it's time for the day's best pick. Today we're going to take a look at a mythological sea creature so disturbing it's a surprise it's not more well known than it is. Find out just what is next in number 2. The Umi Bazoo. Perhaps the most terrifying sea monster in Japanese mythology is the terrible Umi Bazoo. Though many monsters appeared when the seas were stormy or other dangerous conditions were present, Umi Bazoo preferred to take his victims when they least expected it. When sailing along a calm sea on a day with good weather, Umi Bazoo would suddenly cause a storm to come out of nowhere and create waves that rocked ships and terrified the passengers. Then he would rise from the sea, a black humanoid figure with hollow eyes and an eerie smile. Should anyone speak to the monster or offend it in any way, the Umi Bazoo would capsize the ship and claim the souls of the sailors. There was, however, thought to be an out. If the Umi Bazoo was offended by a human, it would ask for a barrel. Then it would use this barrel to fill the boat with enough water to drown it and kill all sailors aboard. However, if a smart crew was able to give the Umi Bazoo a bottomless barrel, it wouldn't be able to scoop up any seawater, and the crew would at least have a chance to escape back to shore. Number 1. The Kraken. The Kraken is an infamous sea monster who was known to terrorize sailors off the coast of Norway. This enormous beast was thought to release a substance made up of its previous meals into the water when it wanted to feed. This would cause an impressive amount of fish to flock up to the area in order to feed on the bait. When enough fish had gathered, the Kraken would reach up and swallow them all, then fall into a deep sleep while it digested the food. When sailors first realized that fish were drawn to a particular area at certain times when the Kraken was feeding, they would attempt to sail overhead and drop their nets to skim off the Kraken's food source. This greatly upset the Kraken, causing it to sink the ships and eat the sailors. Whenever a ship tried to steal food from the beast or bothered it in general, the Kraken would create a terrible whirlpool and raise its tentacles out of the water to capsize the vessel in question. It is sometimes hypothesized that the tale of the Kraken was inspired by sightings of giant squid. This is partially because of the description of the anatomy of these creatures, and partially because giant squid are known to use similar hunting methods. Which mythological sea creature intrigued you the most? Let us know in the comments section down below. Want to watch more videos about creatures of legend? Click on any of the links you see on the screen. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody.